Good morning and welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Sunday, the 26th day of Teves. Let's begin with tzedakah. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So we begin today chapter 14 in the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe gives us a very profound understanding. Why? Why should we do the right thing? What is the argument? What is the reason that will convince me that I need to do the right thing, overcome my desires, my challenges? I grew up not in Lubavitch schools. We didn't learn the Tanya there. And in a religious school, though, of course. But the reason, the understanding, the argument why you should be, do the Torah, do the mitzvahs, to be an observant Jew, so to speak, I tell you about there's heaven, there's hell, after 120 years. And of course, it's all true. But I don't think that's a convincing argument for some people. I'm going to say, what's going to happen in 120 years? Let's worry about it later. Now I want to enjoy life. I live here. Or to be a tzaddik, to grow to be a tzaddik, to be a righteous person, also not so convincing. In a way, to study Torah, to be a tzaddik, it's also not really, it's becoming selfish and becoming arrogant and so on. The Alter Rebbe here in Tanya gives us the winning argument and telling you, why should I overcome my challenges? It is because that's really who you are. You are a Jew, you are connected with Hashem, you have the love of Hashem, and you do not want to be separated from Hashem. You do not want to be severed. You don't want to sever that connection with God right now. It's not just about what is going to happen after 120 years, it's right now. And here the Alter Rebbe says that have realistic expectations. Don't think you can become a tzaddik. Like we said, a tzaddik is a person who doesn't have any desires, any bad desires. All he wants, he already transformed the evil inclination. All he wants is good. So the Alter Rebbe, that's not what the average person can reach. The average person, the Beinani, is someone who is in control and he overcomes his challenges. He does have challenges and he overcomes them when it comes to action, when it comes to speech, and when it comes to thought. And this is something that everyone should strive to. Wow, that's a really eye-opener if you think about it. The Alter Rebbe's approach, the Alter Rebbe's teaching, guiding us how to live our life, changes everything. Let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. Chapter 14, Perek Yedalad in Tanya. Ve'ine, midas ha-beinani, midas kolodam, v'achareo kolodam yumshech. Now the rank of the beinani, the intermediate person, is one that is attainable by every man. Each person should strive after it, if he has not yet attained it, and should not think it beyond his reach. Don't think that this is beyond your reach. Shekol Adam Yachal Liyos Beinani B'chol Eisa B'chol Shah. For every person can at any time or hour be a Beinani. And he explains why. Because the Beinani is not a tzaddik. It's not expectation to completely not have any desires. Ki a Beinani eino moyes b'ra. Because a Beinani does not abhor evil, unlike the tzaddik. He does not find worldly pleasures revolting or loathsome. He lives in this world. He has desires. For this is a matter entrusted to the heart. And as explained earlier, the Beinani has not yet conquered the evil in his heart. Consequently, he does not loathe evil. Also, not all times are alike. Sometimes he is more inspired with spirituality, sometimes less. But what is demanded, what is expected of a Beinoni, is that when it comes to his action, his speech, and thought, he should have the right decision to do the right thing. Rather, the task of the Beinoni is only to turn away from evil and do good in actual practice, in deed, speech, and thought. In these matters, as opposed to matters of heart, every man is given the choice, ability, and freedom. Everyone has the freedom to act, speak, and think even that which is contrary to the desires of his heart and diametrically opposed to it. Even if you want one thing, you have the choice and you can do the right thing, the opposite thing. For even when one's heart craves and desires a material pleasure, whether permitted, some pleasures are permitted, a nice chocolate cake, ice cream, a steak, permitted, that's permitted. Or even whether God forbid his desires, that which is forbidden, no matter what type of desires a person has, he's able to overcome his desires and to shift his mind away from it. He can conquer this desire and divert his attention from it altogether. How? And here the Alter Rebbe comes with a winning argument, saying, I do not want, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and say, and realize that doing something which is against the will of Hashem, this makes you a rasha, a wicked person. That severs your connection with God, and you do not want that. But Omri Belibai, by declaring to himself as follows, I do not want to be a rasha, in succumbing to the blandishment of the animal soul, even for one moment. Even for a moment, I don't want to be separated. Because under no circumstances do I want to be parted and severed, heaven forbid, from the one God. As it is written, your iniquities separate you from God. So by reflecting that sin separates one from God, one will conclude that he does not wish to be a rasha, since he will thereby sever his bond with him. In this way, one can always turn away from evil and refrain from sin altogether, although his heart craves it. And the same thing is also when it comes to doing positive things. What will motivate a person to do positive things is when you will realize that this is what you truly want. Deep inside, there is the love of Hashem in every heart of every Jew. He says, I desire instead to unite my nefesh, ruach, and neshama. This is the three levels of the soul, which called nefesh is the part of the soul connected with action. Ruach is the part of the soul connected with emotions or thought, or speech, and neshama is the part of the neshama connected with intellect, thought. So I want to unite my nefesh, ruach, and neshama with God through investing them in His three garments, in God's three garments. What are God's three garments? namely action, speech, and thought dedicated to God, His Torah, and His mitzvahs. And why do I want this? Because that's who I am, and this is the hidden love that is in me. Just like when there's a hidden love to a child. Sometimes the child, you don't feel the connection, that the child gets you upset, gets you angry, but the love is there. Or to the father. Can we believe this desire to unite with God arise out of the love of God that is surely hidden in my heart, though I do not feel it. Just as this love is found in the heart of all Jews, who are called lovers of Hashem, lovers of your name, by reason of their inherent love of God, although they do not all feel this love consciously. Continues the Alter Rebbe and says that the fact is, as we mentioned a number of times, that even the Kal Shebekalim is able to give his life up to Hashem. What is a Kal Shebekalim? Kal Shebekalim, Kal means light-minded. Person doesn't care about godliness, doesn't care about religion. And Kal Shebekalim is one who is light-minded among the light-minded, meaning if he hangs out around light-minded, they'll point out and says, oh, you see this guy is a light-minded. That's how low this person is, that's how careless the person is when it comes to Judaism. Even a person who is on that level, it is possible for him to give up his life. When push comes to shove and he realizes that his connection with God is going to be severed, going to be disconnected, God forbid, he will be ready to give up his life. And that throughout the history, we saw it happening. So it says, that's the conversation you should have with yourself. And you say, even the most lowest level person, lowest level Jew who couldn't care about anything, he's also capable of giving up his life to Hashem. I'm certainly not less than him. Continues the Alter Rebbe, v'afilu kal shebekalim yochel limsa nafshe al kedushas Hashem v'lo noifel o noichim mimenu bevadai. For this reason, even kal shebekalim is capable of sacrificing his life for the sanctity of God. Should he be forced to deny him? God forbid. Surely I am not inferior to him. Then what happened? If that is the case, then what causes the person to sin? We succumb to our desires, to our temptations. Says the Alter Rebbe, the reason why a Jew is capable of sinning is because there is a foolishness enters his mind, thinking that a sin doesn't do anything. So it's okay, I'm a Jew at heart. I love Hashem. No big deal. I do this, I do that. He doesn't realize the effect that you have by doing something against God's will, how it is actually a separation. It separates you. Yes, of course, we can always do teshuvah, we can repent, but that's not the conversation here. Conversation here is the conversation you should have with yourself, and knowing the truth. How will you convince yourself that you should do the right thing? Because you want to be connected with Hashem. You do not want to be separated. And the fact that people sin is because there's foolishness enters their mind, thinking that the sin is no big deal. It is only that the spirit of folly has overcome, or has entered him. As our sages say, no man sins unless overcome by a spirit of folly. He imagines that committing this sin will not affect his Jewishness, and that his soul will not be severed thereby from God, the God of Israel. In fact, at the moment that a Jew sins, he becomes separated from God. So were the Kal Shebekalim, or the lowest person, to realize this fact, he would never sin. The spirit of folly, however, deludes him into thinking otherwise. That is why you would do something which is against the will of Hashem. And the same thing is also when it comes to doing a positive mitzvah. The reason why a person would not do the positive mitzvah is because he forgets that that's really what he wants. That is really the hidden love in him. Similarly, the Kal Shebakalim neglects the positive mitzvahs, although his natural love of God dictates that he fulfill them, because he also forgets the love of God hidden in his heart. Were he aware of this love, he would seek out mitzvahs to perform in order to unite with God. And Alter Rebbe concludes here in today's lesson. He says, that's the thoughts, and that's the conversation you should have with yourself. Say to yourself, I do not want to be a fool like him, to deny the truth. All this applies to the Kal Shebakalim, but as for me, one should say to himself, I have no desire to be such a fool as he to deny the truth. The truth of the matter is that sin does separate men from God, and that one does have a natural love of God that dictates the performance of mitzvahs. So these truths, one must say to himself, I do not wish to deny. Such arguments are effective in a conflict with one's animal soul over actual thought, speech, and action. So using the above mentioned reasoning, one can prevail over his evil inclination at all times in both turning from the evil and doing good, and thereby attain a rank of the Beinoni. So this is the end of today's shir. It's really an eye-opener to realize that we can do the right thing, and what is the argument, why should we do the right thing? So Mitzvah Hashem will continue tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.